no matter what. I'm feeling great.
Hello, and welcome back to the Power of Silence on the Light of Knowledge. In our previous episode, we talked to Sister Goody about her personal life experiences, how she came into knowledge, how did she connect with the Supreme Soul. And today, we're going to go into the deeper aspects of silence. We're going to find out what it is truly to be silent. Is it just the verbal silence, being quiet externally, or is there something more to it? So as always, we have with us Sister Goody, who's going to help us with these issues. Welcome, Sister Goody.
Om Shanti.
Sister, in our previous episode, we talked about how you connected with the Supreme. Today, we'd like to go into a little more detail and understand silence, because there are a lot of misconceptions out there when it comes to silence. For some, being silent could just mean that I don't talk. Now, is that the kind of silence that we're referring to?
Not talking is a means to enter mental silence. It's not that we should talk and have mental silence. That is also no solution. But in order to attain mental silence, we first have to know that every human soul originally comes from the soul world, where there is no sound at all, no thought at all, no time consciousness at all. So, and with this consciousness, when we first enter a body, with this consciousness we come to this world. So it is actually something very natural that we know, that we have experienced, and we are identical with this consciousness.
Okay, so you're saying that the verbal silence is the first step to experiencing this inner silence. Is that correct?
Even when we switch back to the first flight from the soul world to our first body, even there, coming down, we don't talk. It's just a being conscious. It's just the experience, I am this light. And naturally we spread this silent light full of all Jnani attainments to the entire universe. This is the original state of mind.
Okay.
And then, when we now, having come to a state of mind that is completely disturbed and loud, when we now want to recall this original silence, we have to do a few steps that allow us to enter this original consciousness again. As it is hidden, we long for it, but we can't catch it. The means of thinking peacefully, thinking positively, when any negative thought comes up, is the first step towards mental silence.
Is there any difference between silence and stillness, or no? It is
the same.
It means the one and the same thing.
It means thoughtlessness.
Okay. Well, I'm really trying to understand what silence is, and first we ruled out the verbal silence. We know it's not just sitting quietly. That's not what we mean by silence. So there is no difference between stillness, inner stillness, and silence. That's another point we understood. But the mind starts wandering. I sit here and I say, I want to be silent. I don't talk, but I want to be silent. What is it exactly that I am trying to do when I say I want to be silent?
The soul longs for this original stage of thoughtlessness, because it's the full stage in which we have got all attainments again that we once had. And the soul longs for this consciousness again, therefore it wants to be silent. But then if it pushes himself or herself to be quiet inside, the mind does the contrary and speaks loudly. Again, the means to keep the mind in a peaceful state is peaceful, positive thoughts. If we have such thoughts for a while, naturally, the state of mind of thoughtless silence comes up. It installs itself suddenly.
In our previous episode, we said that this came to you relatively easy in terms of, and quickly. But to a lot of us out there, it's a struggle. It's really not that easy to silence the mind. So is that what silence is? Is silence the mind? Because what I understand about the mind is mind always thinks. I mean, that's its nature, to think. So when we're talking about silence here and we're talking about silencing the mind, it's not an easy task. So how do we do it? Because the mind goes on and on. It just wants to think. It jumps from one thought to another to another. And it just doesn't want to stop. So
this is the external nature that it wants to think. The deep internal nature is to be thoughtless. It's, to be silent is nothing artificial that we have to acquire because we are too loud. The state of being silent is natural for each soul. Brahma Baba has described this state as the Karmatit stage.
could you please explain Karmatit a little bit?
Karmatit means having no karma in the mind, being really being free, and not having to think positively, not having to think negatively anyway, but just have no thought. And when we have this stage initially, we long for more of it. Mm-hmm. And the mind then talks. And we try to have positive thoughts, peaceful thoughts, and the mind goes back to a new stage of thoughtlessness, to a bit of a higher stage of thoughtlessness. So to accumulate thoughtless energy means to again and again switch back to positive, peaceful thoughts.
Okay.
Because they transform the tendency of the old thought patterns.
Correct.
To become Bab-Saman.
Sister, I was just curious to know, are there different forms of silence? Or when we say silence, are we referring to just the inner deep silence, or are there any different forms?
Well, there are pre-states that are not as deep as the final one, in which we are completely full and ready to go to our Father in the soul world, where there is the same attraction, silence. At the beginning it's just a little, and normally we feel happy when this state has started, when there's just a little bit of thoughtlessness. And then our thoughts count in order to reach more thoughtlessness. We can also practice to go home to Paramdham and come down again, and we will realize that our thoughts that emerge then are completely different than the ones we had before. Because touching the final silent state provokes a transformation in the soul that brings about very divine, high thought levels. So it's not that we eternally remain thoughtless. We acquire the state of thoughtlessness by practicing good thoughts, positive thoughts. We increase its percentage until it's full, and the thoughts that arise from the silent, thoughtless stage are very elevated and divine.
Okay, I'm almost kind of understanding the steps we need to take in order to reach that ultimate stage. And to reiterate what we talked before, external silence first, and now it seems the second step is to have positive thoughts. That would be the basis for going into this stage of perfect silence. If that is the case, where silence is our true nature, and you explained very beautifully that our external self wants to talk, but our inner self is truly silent. But why is it that some people are afraid of silence?
Fear is a sign of body consciousness. If we are silent, we know we cannot die, we have immortal consciousness, nothing can shake us. Until this is really stable, scenes of fear will come up to test us. And in all religions, actually, people experience the fear of dying. Because they have the feeling they won't live again, or have attachment to the old life. There's also the notion of the great death, God as the great death, which is scaring tremendously. The meaning of this is the great death of body consciousness, the great death of the vice, the great death for anything violent. Life itself, full energy, immaterial soul energy.
I was thinking as you were talking about this, sometimes people refer to silence as the sound of silence, which is exactly contrary to silence and the sound of silence, or some people say the language of silence. So could you please shed some light on that?
Silence is referred to truth. words can hide truth tremendously. Someone who is very skilled in speaking can hide truth to a tremendous extent. Being really silent emerges the reality that the subconscious mind tries to hide. The subconscious mind contains all the karmic accounts that the soul has acquired in many lives. If we remain silent for a long time, these karmic accounts are transformed into positive energy, into the energy that the soul once possessed. A soul originally has got full energetic power that the subconscious mind nowadays catches for itself. When we are silent for a long time, the truth that very unrighteous people might like to hide or have hidden for a long time comes up in drama. Healing does just mean to transform the karmic burden in the chit in the link with the ever silent energy of the One. This is healing. Mundane healing is something else. Right. Healing is transforming all the karmic burdens in depth and transfer the once burdened soul energy into completely perfect, beautiful deity energy.
That sounds very positive. I mean, it really is, very uplifting as well. So the next obvious thought that comes to mind is, this is not something that we can achieve on our own. We definitely need to connect with the Supreme Soul, in order to heal ourselves. Would that be a correct statement?
It's the only way.
Okay.
There's no other energy that can transform human souls into their perfect stage.
Sister, from our discussion, it sounds like it almost seems inevitable that we have to connect with the Supreme Soul in order to bring in His healing energy and heal ourselves, so we can go down to the deeper levels of the subconscious mind. Would that be a correct statement?
Absolutely correct. The One's energy is the only light that is able to really satisfy the need of deep transformation of these days.
I'm getting what you're saying in terms of, trying to be silent and leading a silent life, but it's still not very clear to me in terms of how to achieve this, how to connect with the Supreme, and how to harness, if I may use that word, how to harness the Supreme energy into our subconscious mind. So I was wondering at this point, for the benefit of our viewers, plus everyone else who is listening to this, if you could once again take us into a meditation experience, which can be a healing experience for all of us. Sister, for this wonderful meditation experience. And thank you for being with us once again. Today, we understood the meaning of the power of silence. All these days, I had been listening to this phrase, but I did not really catch the deeper meaning of this. And now I understand that we can use God's energy to heal ourselves because it touches us on a subconscious level. The subconscious mind, as Sister explained, where all our karmic accounts are accumulated. So definitely we can use this and heal ourselves. And this will help us bring in not only the transformation that we're looking for, but ultimately the transformation in the whole world. Because that is what the premise of Brahma Kumaris is, as I understand. You change yourself to change the world. With these words, I thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Until then, take care.